Here we are going to rank the top 10 Carolina quarterbacks of all time. There is a criteria to this list, that being that the quarterback must have played in 10 games or more in their time at the Carolina Panthers and to have been declared a starter. And if my maths is correct, that makes things easier for me in that I can only find 10 that fit that criteria. So we aren't going to be looking at anybody who was a backup or a short-term starter, not declared the starter at the beginning of a season. So we won't be picking the likes of Frank Reich, David Carr, Vinny Testaverde, Derek Anderson, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, or PJ Walker. And Baker Mayfield will also miss the cut for not starting more than 10 games. So at number 10, we start with Chris Weinke. Now, Chris Weinke was a minor league baseball player before joining the college football ranks at the age of 25, where he joined Florida State. He went on to win the national championship in 1999 and became the oldest Heisman Trophy winner of all time at 28 years old, and then became the 106th pick by the Carolina Panthers in the 2001 NFL Draft. Now, Weinke was the starter in that 2001 season as a 28-year-old rookie. The Panthers had their worst ever season, finishing 1-15. Weinke's record on that season was 1-14. And it is that kind of record why he was only the starter for 1 year. In 2002, the Panthers signed Rodney Pete, which demoted Weinke to the backup position, in which he was let go at the end of the 2002 season. Weinke did join up again with the Carolina Panthers in 2006 after an injury to starting quarterback Jake Delhomme, and he started 3 consecutive games towards the end of the season where he won 1 and lost 2. And at number 9, ironically, is number 9, Bryce Young. Now let me make it perfectly clear, I am a Bryce Young fan, I am a supporter. This is by no means any Bryce Young hate putting him as low as number 9. This is solely based off of one season stats. The Panthers traded up from 9th overall, giving away wide receiver DJ Moore, as well as the 2024 first round pick and a handful of other picks. Bryce Young was also a Heisman Trophy winner, but his Carolina Panthers career did not get off to a good start, with the Panthers starting 0-6. After a Week 7 bye week in Week 8, Bryce Young and the Panthers did get their first win. It wasn't until Week 15, after a 6-game losing streak, that the second win of the season came about, where Bryce helped lead a 95-yard winning drive to win the game. His best performance came in Week 16 against the Green Bay Packers, where he threw 312 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Bryce finished the season with 16 games started, 2 wins and 14 losses. At number 8 is Teddy Bridgewater. The Panthers had a 5-11 record in which Teddy Bridgewater was responsible for 4 of those wins and all 11 losses. He did have multiple career bests at Carolina though, including 340 pass completions, 3,733 passing yards, 15 passing touchdowns, which was his career best until that time, but he did beat that in the following season at the Denver Broncos. And he also had career bests with his rushing stats, with 279 rush yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. And he was also responsible for 2 receivers getting over 1,000 yards, being DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. At number 7, probably the biggest surprise on this list is Matt Moore. Matt Moore was an undrafted free agent in 2007, originally signing with the Dallas Cowboys, but was then waived and picked up by the Panthers. He was picked up just to be the 3rd stringer behind Jake Delhomme and David Carr, but due to some injuries, he did actually get a little bit of playing time, winning 2 and losing 1 in his rookie year. He played in a total of 9 games during his rookie season, but after a signing of Vinny Testaverde, that did limit his time. But he did start in all 3 of the last few games of the season, winning 2 and losing 1, and doing enough to win Offensive Rookie of the Month for December. He missed out his entire 2008 season through injury, but in 2009 he played in 7 games across the season, starting 5 with 4 wins and 1 loss. He came in to replace the injured Jake Delhomme, in which during his 5 starts threw for 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Now, the only reason that he makes this list is because he was actually declared the starter of the 2010 season, which is most probably known for Jimmy Clausen. And it's for that reason Jimmy Clausen doesn't make this list. Obviously, he was terrible, but also he wasn't actually named the starter of the 2010 season. After a concussion to Moore, Clausen finished week 1, and he also finished week 2 as well after some poor play from Moore. The two chopped and changed, both were as bad as each other. Injuries and poor play meant that Moore started some, missed out on others, and then did end up ruled out with injury after week 9. So in total, Moore started 5 games, winning 1, losing 4, threw for 857 yards, 5 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. But he did have a winning record. He won 7 and lost 6 in his time as a starter with the Panthers, which is why he's so high up this list. His winning percentage is top 3 in Carolina Panthers quarterback franchise history. At number 6, we have Sam Darnold. Darnold was originally the 3rd overall pick by the New York Jets in the 2018 draft. The Panthers traded for him in 2021, giving up a 2021 6th round pick as well as 2022 2nd and 4th round picks. The Panthers also picked up his 5th year option on his contract, guaranteeing him $18.85 million for the 2022 season. Things got off to a pretty good start. The Panthers ended up 3-0 in the first 3 weeks of the season, including a week 1 win over his former team, the New York Jets. Things did come crashing down after the 3-0 start, and a week 10 injury resulting in Darnold going on injured reserve brought back Cam Newton. Darnold finished the last 3 games of the season, resulting in his first year in Carolina with 2,527 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and career bests 222 rushing yards for 5 rushing touchdowns. For 2022, he was declared the backup to Baker Mayfield after an injury sustained in pre-season meant that he would be out until November. Darnold came back in week 12 where he helped the Panthers beat the Denver Broncos after being 3-7 on the season. Baker Mayfield was released after week 13, giving the starting job back to Sam Darnold. So with 6 games played, 4 won, 2 losses, 2022 wasn't an overall bad season for Sam Darnold, where he threw for 1,143 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, which all came in the last 2 weeks, and he also ran for 106 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. His contract was not renewed after the 2022 season, and he became a free agent, where he's currently the backup at the San Francisco 49ers. In total, Darnold started 17 games, winning 8 and losing 9. At number 5, we have Rodney Pete. Rodney Pete signed as a 37-year-old free agent. After the dismal 2001 season led by Chris Winkie, Pete came in to be the starter. Overall, won 7 games and lost 7 as the starter in 2002 with a 3-0 start. And even at the age of 37, Rodney Pete still had career highs in terms of starts that season, completions, pass yards, passing touchdowns, and passer rating. Pete was the starter for the 2003 season in the first game, but was benched midway through week 1 for quarterback Jake Delhomme and never started again. Overall, he started 15 games for the Panthers, winning 8, losing 7, which makes him one of the few quarterbacks in Panthers franchise history to have above a 500 record. At number 4 is the very first draft pick from Carolina Panthers history, Kerry Collins. Collins was the 5th overall pick in the 1995 draft, the first ever draft the Carolina Panthers were a part of after becoming a 95 expansion team. And in 95, with rookie from Penn State, Kerry Collins, the Panthers went 7-9, Collins having a 7-6 record, so won every game of the season. And he holds a couple of franchise records. One he shares with Cam Newton for most rookie passing touchdowns in a single game with 3. In 1996, the Panthers became the youngest expansion team ever to clinch their division and appear in an NFC Conference Championship game. Well, the Panthers were 12-4 overall in that season. With Kerry Collins as the starter, he helped them win 9, losing 3. And that record helped him earn Pro Bowl honors. Getting to the NFC Championship game in 96, Kerry Collins had a 1-1 postseason record, the one loss obviously being the NFC Championship game. Collins had a 6-7 record in 1997, and after a 0-4 start in 1998, asked to be released. Collins started 40 games for the Carolina Panthers, winning 23 and losing 21. Again, above a 500 record puts him up there with one of Carolina's greatest ever quarterbacks. And he was also responsible for Carolina Panthers' first ever postseason win. Collins' career at Carolina ended with 8,306 passing yards, 47 touchdowns, 54 interceptions, and 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in 2 postseason games. At number 3, we have Steve Berline. In 1992 Super Bowl winner with the Dallas Cowboys, Berline was signed with the Panthers in 1996 to be Kerry Collins' backup, where he did back up for 2 years before getting the starting job in 1998. Berline made 4 starts in his first season with the Panthers in 96, in where he won 3, losing 1, having 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in those 4 games. He had a 1-2 record as a starter as the backup in 1997, before getting the starting job in 1998 after Kerry Collins left after week 5. Berline had a 4-8 record as the starter in 1998, having 17 touchdowns for 2,613 yards, but the Panthers finished 4-12 overall in the season, where head coach Dom Capers was fired. But in 1999, under new head coach George Seifert, Berline went on to have one of the best seasons in his career. The Panthers were 8-8 and missed out on the playoffs, but Berline broke a bunch of his own records as well as smashing some Panthers franchise records which still stand today. 99 was his one and only Pro Bowl call-up in his career. He led the league in passing yards for 4,436 and also led the league in completions with 343. And he was second in the league in passer rating and passing touchdowns with 36, only to that year's MVP, Kurt Warner. He also helped 2 wide receivers, Muhsin Muhammad and Patrick Jeffers, get over 1,000 receiving yards. The records in 99 that he broke and still hold today include the single season passing yards for 4,436, passing touchdowns with 36, passing attempts, completion percentage, yards per game. In 2000, the Panthers went 7-9, where he does have another record for most touchdown passes in a game, tied with Cam Newton. Berline started 59 games in his Carolina Panthers career, winning 23, losing 29. He had 1,042 completions, 12,690 yards, 86 touchdowns, and 50 interceptions. At number 2, we have Jake Delhomme. Jake Delhomme was undrafted in 1997, coming from southwestern Louisiana, when he signed as a free agent to the New Orleans Saints. Delhomme bounced around the Saints practice squad and NFL Europe, where he backed up Kurt Warner at the Amsterdam Admirals. He won the World Bowl in 1999 with Frankfurt Galaxy and was then brought back to New Orleans playing third string. He was signed as a free agent to Carolina in 2003 to back up Rodney Pete, but John Fox's vision was for him to compete with Pete and as well as maybe take over. After a poor performance from Pete in week 1 of the 2003 season, Delhomme took over and threw 3 touchdown passes, including the winner with only 16 seconds for a comeback win. And from week 2 onwards, he was declared the starter. The Panthers were 11-5 in his first season, Delhomme winning 10 of them, in which he was responsible for 8 game-winning drives in the final quarter or overtime, which was the most by any quarterback in history. 2003 and Jake Delhomme's first year at Carolina Panthers is probably the Panthers' most famous year in their history. It was their first Super Bowl appearance after only being in the NFL for 9 seasons, and is also probably one of the more memorable Super Bowls in recent history. Delhomme threw for 323 yards, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, had a 113.6 passer rating, and set the record for the longest touchdown pass in Super Bowl history, which still stands today at 85 yards. The Panthers obviously did go on to lose Super Bowl 38 to a late field goal. Starting at 1-7 in the 2004 season, Delhomme threw 17 touchdowns and 4 interceptions en route to winning 6 of the last 8 games, just missing out on the playoffs. In 2004, Delhomme had career highs in pass attempts, completions, overall yardage, and touchdowns. 2005 was Delhomme's one and only Pro Bowl year. Like 2003, they finished 12-5 on the season, going to the playoffs. Being responsible for all 11 wins at the time was a franchise record that he broke himself in 2008. Delhomme had career highs in completion percentage and passer ratings in 2005, was responsible for 2 playoff wins, only losing the NFC Championship game to the Seattle Seahawks. 2006 was another missed playoff year, but Delhomme set records during the season by making 150 consecutive pass attempts without an interception, better than Steve Berline's previous team record. He also broke Berline's records for completions and passing yards, but Delhomme missed the last 3 games of the season with a thumb injury. In 2008, the Panthers had their second best year in franchise history, going 12-4. They made the playoffs but lost to the Arizona Cardinals in the divisional round, in which they got beat on Delhomme's 34th birthday. In 2009, Delhomme signed a 5-year contract extension worth $42.5 million with $20 million guaranteed. The Panthers were 8-8 on the season, with Delhomme winning 4, losing 7. He broke a finger and was placed on season-ending injury reserve on Christmas Eve 2009 and was released in March 2010. Delhomme holds NFL records for most career fourth quarter comeback wins with 17, as well as most career game-winning drives with 23. Delhomme was inducted into the Carolina Panthers Hall of Honor in 2019, making him the only quarterback there to date. In his career here, he had 99 starts, winning 58 and losing 40, throwing for 19,258 yards, 120 touchdowns and 89 interceptions. At number 1 is number 1, Cameron Jarrell Newton. Cam Newton was a national championship winner and Heisman Trophy winner at Auburn, and after Jimmy Clausen and Matt Moore's bad 2010 season, the Carolina Panthers held the number 1 pick in the 2011 draft, where they selected Cam Newton first overall. Cam Newton's first few years were all about breaking records, NFL, rookie and franchise. In his first game in the 2011 season, Newton became the first rookie to throw for at least 400 yards in his first career game. His 422 passing yards broke Peyton Manning's rookie record for most passing yards on an opening day. He finished his rookie season with an NFL record 4,051 passing yards and 21 touchdowns. He made the Pro Bowl and the All-Rookie team, winning both Rookie of the Year and Offensive Rookie of the Year, becoming the first Carolina Panther to do so. In 2012, he led the league in yards per completion and tied with Peyton Manning for yards per attempt, and was 46th on the NFL Top 100 player list. In 2013, the Panthers went 12-4, tying the best franchise record. That was also Cam Newton's first playoff appearance. Again, Cam Newton was elected to go to the Pro Bowl that year and found himself number 24 on the NFL Top 100 list. 2014 was a bit of an injury-plagued year for Cam Newton, dealing with ankle, rib, throwing hand and back injuries throughout the season. Newton had 4 games with at least 200 passing yards and 80 rushing yards with multiple touchdowns, both passing and rushing becoming an NFL record. With a 7-8-1 record, the Panthers won back-to-back NFC South titles, which resulted in their first playoff win in 9 years in the wildcard round against the Cardinals, but lost to the Seahawks in the divisional round. Newton's 33 rushing touchdowns were the most by a quarterback in his first 4 seasons. He's also the only player in NFL history to have 10,000 passing yards and 2,000 rushing yards in his first 4 seasons, and is the first to have at least 3,000 passing yards and 500 rushing yards in 4 consecutive seasons. But it was 2015 where Cam Newton really had his best season of his career. Week 3 marked the 26th game in his career in which he had a passing and a rushing touchdown, ranking second all-time in NFL history, only behind Steve Young. In a game against the Washington Redskins, Newton threw for a career-high 5 touchdown passes and became the only quarterback in NFL history with 100-plus passing touchdowns and 25-plus rushing touchdowns in his first 5 seasons. The Panthers beat the Falcons 38-0. Newton had 3 passing touchdowns and finished with a career-high quarterback rating of 153.3. The Panthers had 225 offensive yards in just the first quarter alone, being a franchise record. Through the first 15 weeks of the season, the Panthers went all the way to 14-0, and during that time, He threw the second most touchdown passes and led the NFL with 40 combined passing and rushing touchdowns. 40 of Carolina's 49 touchdowns on that season at that point were either thrown or ran by Newton himself. Newton became the first player to win 5 NFC Offensive Player of the Week awards in a 9-week span. Cam Newton led all NFL quarterbacks in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. They finished 15-1 on the season, the franchise's best ever record, gained the number 1 seed in the playoffs for the NFC, resulting in a first round bye. They beat the Seahawks in the divisional round 31-24 after leading 31-0 at halftime. They beat the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game 49-15. Cam Newton became the first quarterback in NFL history to rush for multiple touchdowns in an NFC Championship game, and the 49 points were the most scored in an NFC Championship game in history. The 2015 season for Cam Newton resulted in him being named First Team All-Pro. It was his 3rd Pro Bowl nomination, and he won the league MVP as well as Offensive Player of the Year. He was also named number 1 on the NFL Top 100 Players list in a year that seen Carolina go to their 2nd ever Super Bowl, Super Bowl 50, where they lost 24-10 to the Denver Broncos. The 2016 season started with a rematch of Super Bowl 50 against the Broncos, where Newton surpassed 2 of Steve Young's NFL records, one for the most career rushing touchdowns by a quarterback with 44, and the other for most games with a passing and rushing touchdown with 32. The Panthers finished 6-10 on the season, 6-8 being Cam's record that year, putting him 44th on the top 100 list. 2017 seen the Panthers go back to the playoffs with an 11-5 record. They were the number 5 seed in the NFC playoffs, losing the wildcard game to the New Orleans Saints. In 2019, the Panthers started 0-2. Newton was held out of the Week 3 game with an injury, going on to miss the rest of the season. He was given permission to seek a trade in March 2020, but a few days later, the Panthers released him. He signed with the New England Patriots as a free agent in 2020 before re-signing with the Panthers in November 2021 as a free agent, replacing the injured Sam Darnold. He started as a backup to PJ Walker only days after re-signing, but scored on a rushing and passing touchdown on his first 2 plays early in the first quarter. After that, he was named the starter. Newton finished that season with 684 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He had 230 rushing yards for 5 rushing touchdowns in 6 total games. He started 5 in which they lost them all. Cam started 140 games for the Panthers, winning 71, losing 64, tying 1. He holds franchise records for 2,440 pass completions, 29,725 passing yards, 186 passing touchdowns, and 63 rushing touchdowns. In the postseason, he had 130 pass completions, 1,821 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 2 rushing touchdowns. In his time at the Panthers, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year, League MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, 10 NFC Offensive Player of the Week awards. He had First Team All-Pro honours and 3 Pro Bowls. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to check out the Panthers Magpie on all social media accounts, including Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure to like this video and follow on all accounts, as well as subscribe on YouTube.